This video is about thinking creatively. It's about how to move beyond the limitations of the left brain. It's about how to develop your creativity and techniques to do so. And it's about how to apply that creativity in a leadership context. Laura, lovely to speak to you. Let's talk about thinking creatively. Talk to me first about the importance of creativity, particularly in a business or a leadership context.
So this is where spark comes from, like the magic of innovation and ideas to be able to break through challenges that we've had or create new products or solve problems with our customers that we didn't think we'd be able to solve. So to be able to be creative actually comes back to a conversation we had earlier about mindset and knowing that you actually have to be in a very centered place to have that creativity going. And part of it is, do you notice what it's like when you're feeling really good and excited about something? You have a little bit more space available to yourself to play, to think beyond, the regular confines. I find that, my spark comes at many different times, and it may not be at 2 o'clock on Thursday when I'm supposed to have it.
Right.
So the idea is to honor the times where you are inspired or create that environment for the people you're with.
It makes a lot of sense. And the converse makes sense, which is how many times have you had that great idea when you were deeply frustrated, upset, pissed off, just broken up with girlfriend? These are not the most conducive environments.
No, not at all.
And this is true for everybody. Talk to me about how everyone's brain is constructed, left brain versus right brain, and how that works.
I'm not a neuroscientist, however, I have worked with a lot of them. And our brains are wired, actually we take in information through our senses. So our eyes, our ears, our smell, and nose, and that goes through a central warehouse in our brains, literally. And it's through that insight that we gain from literally our senses that we have to make sense of the world. And through that, it also goes through another part of our brain that has to sort through the emotions with it. And so from a creativity side of it, I know there's many more people in the world, quite frankly, who are experts and PhDs in this work. What I've noticed in reading their work is the creativity really gets sparked from people who are able to kind of go outside their patterns, be able to do things that are out the norm, that puts them in a different place, could be physically, emotionally, and be able to try out things that they wouldn't normally be able to try out. And that's why I created the card deck.
I was going to say, this immediately fires across to the card deck,
And the cool thing is, this was intended to be an extension of the first book where we were asking how to see things differently from 10 different perspectives. And what we did was realize we created something that had far greater impact around beyond purpose, was also around creativity and helping people think differently, so that you can be on a flying carpet or at a bus stop, or some places that could be a cliff and a little place.
I love these illustrations.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah. Taylor Wright is the illustrator. She's done amazing work here. Magnificently gifted. Yeah, so it's cool.
All right, so we're talking about thinking creatively. We're talking about how the mind works. And we're talking about using this card deck. So what I want to do is to try and make this kind of almost quantifiable. What's a process we can follow? What are some creativity development techniques? And maybe the card deck is part of this answer.
Yes, it is. And so part of it is taking people through also, when I do keynotes with clients, I'm looking at taking them through a process and a journey where they're starting to look at things in their lives that make them happy, joyful, and where they've been creative. And I use this as a quick example where we start talking about where the hours fly by. And to the places where you start looking at then, what are the things that when people have said to you, you do really great work here, do you notice those gifts? And that leads into greater creativity when we're leveraging our strengths and being able to take the places that bring us energy, bring us spark. Because there's actually been other great research done on this about sometimes you have to step away from everything and have that time just to be in a completely different atmosphere and then something comes up. Like going to a place, like go to the zoo. I haven't been to the zoo in 15 years. That might be a place where I could see how an animal interacts with another animal, and it will give me an idea back at the workplace.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's really taking it out of your own space.
It's interesting you say, just coming back to the middle of your answer, paying attention to what other people compliment you about.
Yes.
And I've got to admit that I'm quite bad at that. Not that I don't want to receive the compliment, but it's kind of like I do actually. There are patterns in where people, reflect on our work, and oftentimes I'm kind of blasé about that, or just sort of let it pass, or don't think about it too much. But it's a really good clue.
Yes.
Around this question of purpose. Talk to me about the connection between thinking creatively and this purpose algorithm that we've been discussing during the course of the day.
So this is, I think, where people get more passionate, is when they get to spend their time in places where they have more energy. And then you can, I'll use myself as an example. If you had told me a year ago, I would have had 4 books, a card deck, a keynote speech process, and a certificate process to create for Purpose Guys, I would have said, you are smoking something. Give me some of it, but I don't know what it is. So the first book was manifested from a taxi cab ride. And within 4 months of conception to publication, it came alive. The second book was birthed 4 days after. I was exhausted. There was nothing that I was thinking. And I woke up in the middle of the night and had this flash of idea. And that's where the second book got birthed.
So again, not at 2 p.m. on a Thursday.
It's not 2 p.m. on a Thursday. This was at 3:42 on a 4th of
3:42 a.m.
April. It was 3:42 a.m.
Definitely not business hours.
No, and it woke me up out of a sleep, and I kept trying to go back to sleep. And this voice just said, "Get out of bed, get your mug of markers and your recycled paper, and go." And I'm like, "What?" And I kept trying to go back to sleep, and finally, I had literally this third time. I'm like, "All right already," and I got the mug of markers. We all have mugs of markers, right, in our bedroom?
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Let me talk about creativity again, if I may, but this time in the context of leadership.
Yes.
I would argue, from my conversations with CEOs, which I have a lot of, that the great leaders of our time are not the caretakers. They're not the ones who kind of incrementally keep a business on its path. They are the creative thinkers. What's the connection between great leadership and creativity?
I think it's a combination, though, of they can be the great thinkers, but I think it's how they ignite others in their great thinking. So that it's not always going back to the leader to have the answers and the insights and the gifts. Steve Jobs is a great example.
Right.
He was a brilliant thinker in terms of really pushing the boundaries. I don't know, and people will be very speculative about this response, but how well was he able to really grasp and gather the greatness of others? He did it in some places. I just think that there's more opportunity we can do that, because there's no corner on the market that any leader has on creativity. It's in all of us.
It does make sense
Yes.
to leverage the teams that you build.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for your insight here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For those of you who'd like to find out more, please visit us online at purposestone.com. Also, feel free to like this video, share this video if you have any questions in the comments section below, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel.